Hi, everybody. We're just giving everybody a few more minutes to come on. Can I ask everybody to please mute yourselves? Yeah.
Naomi, you're done?
You want to speak, Shasha?
So many people on this one.
Okay, so just mute yourselves, and then I'll tell you when we're going to start.
I won't hear. We're muted. We're muted.
Okay, hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kim Bash, and I live in the old city of Jerusalem. I'm originally from South Africa, and for the last 10 years, I've been involved in real estate in Jerusalem. I lived in America for several years, and I'm very involved with an organization in Israel, all around the world, called Asia Torah. We do a lot of outreach in Kiryat. But my passion has always been in real estate. So I was working in the nonprofit world for a little bit of time as well. And how I got into doing these Zoom calls every week, for those of you who don't know, who are joining us for the first time, is that I was getting a lot of feedback on Facebook and social media to say, Kim, you've got all these amazing properties you're selling in Jerusalem. Well, what about if we can't afford Jerusalem? Where else can we go? Where else has strong Anglo communities where we will be able to fit in? So I started to do a lot of investigations and exploring. And many people were saying, you know, you can read on Nefesh B'Nefesh's website all about these communities, but you really don't really know. You don't get to speak to the locals. And how can, you know, so I started to think, how can I bring this to everybody? So that's how we started doing the Zoom calls once a week. And so far we've covered amazing communities. I'm going to mute some people. So a reminder just to some people who just come on to please mute yourselves. Okay, great. Let me just mute some people here. Okay, so we started to do these weekly Zoom calls, and it's been pretty amazing, and the feedback's been great, because a lot of people who are thinking of Aliyah are thinking, okay, so where am I going to go? I need to find out more about these communities. So we are looking in all across Israel. We're going full board. And if you have a request about a particular community that you would like me to look into, I will do so. Just to put it up there already now, next week we're doing Renana, which I know a lot of people probably know about, but it's been like on the list for a while. And the reason I haven't done it straight away is because a lot of people...
Kiryat Hasharon.
Sorry, let me mute. Hold on one second. Sorry. The reason I didn't do it straight away is because a lot of people do know about a Renana already, and also Renana tends to be a little bit more expensive. So the forum here is very chilled. I'm very happy that I have so many amazing people on this call that I've been introduced to from Kiryat Hasharon. And it's going to be basically going to introduce themselves, and then we're going to go, it's going to be an open call where people can ask questions. And at the end, there's a chat box. You can chat, you can send me messages and to the rest of the group. And the people that are on the call representing Kiryat Hasharon, those of them who have agreed will, you know, put out their phone number or their email address. Now, I just want to touch very quickly on real estate. As I said, I am a broker as well, but I'll also look for opportunities for everybody. So I'm in touch with developers and other brokers in that area to find the most affordable, the best bang for your buck. Where's it going to be, you know, how we can, if you decide that this is a community you want to come to, how we can help you find the housing opportunities there as well. So we'll cover that at the end of the call, okay? And also, I just want to point out on the chat, if you haven't followed me on Facebook, it's Kim Bash, and I'll put my email address there as well on the chat, that you guys can be in touch with me. I also do one-on-ones. If anybody wants to have a little schmooze, a private session with me, I can also be available for you as well. So I'm going to open it up to one of the Kiryat Hasharon residents who is been very kind tonight to come on. I know he's very, very busy. Daron, where's Daron? Is Daron on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Daron.
Hey, how's it going? I've also got my wife Ori here.
Hi, how are you?
We're good. We're good. We managed to get the twins down.
Oh, great. Okay, so tell us about yourselves and why you chose this community.
Okay, so do you want to start or should I take it all? Okay, fine.
I can't see your wife though. Is she hiding?
Yeah, she is hiding.
All right, okay.
So yeah, so I made Aliyah back in 2012. So I've been here for almost 8 years, actually. Yep, work in high tech, got married over here, and really a summary of things is that we lived in a couple of places before getting to Kiryat Hasharon. We moved here in 2018, and we have loved it since. So we are very, very eager to share that experience with you guys.
How old are your twins?
They are now 7 months. And we
Wow.
also have a 4-year-old daughter.
Amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about the schooling? Like, is there ganim? Like, tell people about the schools for the kids.
Yes, there are a lot of religious ganim in the area where we live. There's several ganim for religious ones, and I'm sure there also are irreligious. There's everyone's, there's religious, irreligious, and the ganim are all great. Like when I was asked which gun I should put my daughter into, everyone was happy with every gun, which made it very complicated, harder to make a decision because everyone's happy wherever they send their children.
So explain to people a little bit different. A gun is like a kindergarten. So just explain how
a gun. So what it is a gun is for from ages 3, 4. That's when children have to go to school, and that's when it's subsidized by the government. And from the ages of 3 months to 3 years, you send to a private daycare, private babysitters, whether it's in someone's house or something small with a few kids, or bigger up to 20 kids.
And are the children in the gun, are they people that you know already from the community, or is it just more
some yes, and some. Our daughter's gun is about a 10-minute walk away from where we live, and actually most of the kids we don't know the families, but our daughter has great friends there. She knows all of them.
Do they speak Hebrew only in the gun?
Only Hebrew.
They only speak Hebrew at gun, but there are lots of different, there's quite a lot of Olim in the area anyway. It's not necessarily Olim, but...
there's Americans with her, there's French with her, the Ethiopians, there's Israelis, there's everyone in the gun. Okay. But it's only in Hebrew. There's only in Hebrew, and I don't, even for younger kids, like babies, I don't think there is anything in English, from what I've heard of, but most of us all send our kids to Hebrew-speaking places. And the kids are all our friends' kids are all bilingual by the time they are 3, 4. Yeah.
And where, Daron, you mentioned you worked in high tech. So where do you, when pre-COVID, were you commuting?
So in a world before COVID, I was commuting into Tel Aviv. This is actually, for me, this is the big, for us, it comes down from, like I say to people when making Aliyah, it comes down to jobs, transportation, and community, right? Those are the three pillars that you're working off of. And one of the most important reasons for us that the area worked is transportation, because it's on the train line. To the train station is a couple of minutes. You can either drive it, you can cycle it, whatever. And then to central Tel Aviv, to Tel Aviv Hashalom, which is one of the main train stations over here. That is about a 30-minute ride into Tel Aviv. And then you are, there is a plethora of work over there, both from I mean, pretty much any industry, but specifically in the industry I work. As well as Netanya, there being a lot of different commerce, and there's a lot of business going on over here as well. For me specifically, I wanted to have that ability that I could commute into Tel Aviv, or alternatively move to another. Yeah, there's also Herzliya, of course, which is a 15-minute train ride. And then in the other direction, there's also Haifa as well. So it is well located from that point of view, where you've got the two big tech clusters in terms of Tel Aviv and Haifa, where it's really, you could do one or the other. Haifa being a bit more distant.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to now move on to Jeremy. Is Jeremy on the call? Hey,
Hi
Jeremy.
there, good evening, hi.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, okay, my name is Jeremy Bank, and firstly, Kim, well done for organising this. It's a great initiative. Really important to do this sort of thorough work, and especially for people looking to make Aliyah. So really, really well done. Yeah, so we made Aliyah here about 4 years ago. We came with two younger kids, and Baruch Hashem, there've been 2 sabras that have come along the way. The reason why we chose Netanya, very, very simply, was because we are coming from Johannesburg. We needed the beach, and we had a very strict criteria. We needed to be within 2 minutes of a freezer chino. For my wife needed a freezer chino fix. For those of you who are familiar what freezer chinos are from South Africa.
Iced coffees.
Iced coffees, yeah. And so we had to be close to the beach. And I think, like Doron put it so well, the overall infrastructural setup here in Netanya is fantastic. From what I understand, I think there's some. If I've looked on the list, there are a couple more Vatikim people who are on the call. They could probably give a better history on the area than I can. Have been here for many years. But the way that I see Kiryat Hasharon, it's sort of like a little satellite suburban part of Netanya. It's got all the amenities of a city. So, for example, I run an office here. I'm a chartered accountant, and I run an office in Netanya. And virtually all the amenities of a city are here, from the tax office, the Bituach Lumi, everything that a city needs to have, you can find in Netanya. And what's also great about Netanya, you can get from one side of Netanya to the other side literally within 10 minutes. So yeah, it's a bit like a little Umschlanger. It's really quite a dorpy town, if anyone knows what that means from the South African side. And yeah, it's a wonderful option. But so there are many wonderful options in Israel, and we're absolutely thrilled to be here, and it comes with high recommendations. What I would put out there, and it's one of the reasons why we did choose Netanya. We do have a fantastic Anglo community, but it's obviously much smaller than the Ranana community, than the Modi'in type community. And we deliberately chose that so our kids could have a more rounded, better integration into Israeli society. So yeah, it's horses for courses, and yeah, Kim, if there's anything else you want to ask, with pleasure.
I want to know, because by the way, I had a friend, I think is Wayne's on the call, I think tonight. He's the one that asked me, please do Kiryat Hasharon. There's so many of my South African friends there. So now, what makes it popular for people from South Africa, do you think, particular?
You know, when we first got here, I think 4 years ago, we were probably the first, like, younger of the South Africans. There have been a couple of South African families who've been here for many years, but we were probably one of the first of the younger South Africans. And it was a little bit of a leap of faith. What attracted us to the area was, as I said, the beach. It's a very nice suburban area. And what's phenomenal, what's happened in the last 4 years, is we've got a young Anglo community which has literally grown from 4 or 5 families to close on 30 young Anglo families in the last 4 years. And we started a little shul, and it's a really active, vibrant community. So it's definitely it's picking up traction. And for that matter, the whole area is picking up traction. You sort of see the infrastructural development around us, like Doron so eloquently put it. It's really phenomenal to get into Tel Aviv on the train, 25 minutes. We're right on the train line. Well integrated transport system, the amenities of the city, very good schooling system. So, and it's still, I mean, in terms of prices, it's not cheap, but it's still quite a bit cheaper than you would expect from or compared to Renana, the Jerusalems. So I guess that is an attraction in itself.
Amazing, thank you. Is Grace on the phone? Is she on the call?
Hi.
Hi, Grace.
Hi. Grace is my husband, Nadav.
Hi.
Hi, Nadav. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So tell us about yourself and why you chose this community.
I'm from New York. Nadav's Israeli with Olim parents.
Yeah, I was born here. I grew up in Jerusalem, but I decided to buy an apartment in Netanya in Kiryat Hasharon.
About 10 years ago.
Yeah, about 10 years ago.
Before family. So like the idea for Nadav was to like buy an apartment in a community as it was being really built up in order to in the future have a family. So we actually started our family outside of Netanya and decided last year in March to move back just before my daughter was born in July.
Yeah, people were talking about different religious areas, and we're both secular, and basically the Gan, which is like a kindergarten, there's one you just walk down the street and you keep seeing them. Kindergartens, schools for elementary schools, and just it's all very family oriented.
Yeah.
Small parks everywhere for kids. Pretty much every group, every cluster of buildings has its own kind of private little playground area. So it's very family oriented, and as I think it was Jeremy said before, everything, it's got all the amenities of a regular place, but it's like next to the big city. It's not in the big city.
So coming from Tel Aviv, we thought that we would like miss a big city, but we've actually really, really liked it. It's on the border of Netanya, so you actually have orchards and farm fields if you feel like having a little bit of nature, just a block away, really right there for you, as well as a community that's built for families. We have our daughter enrolled in a Montessori Gan Alona, and we're really happy there. We think it's a fantastic place. And there's, as Doron said, there's really options for everybody. There's just so many different options depending on what you want, and it's great being in a place where we have just so many families, and the community seems like it's built for families.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And tell me, what's it like in terms of, do you both work? Are both of you working?
Yeah, so there's obviously the pre-COVID and post-COVID, but I teach sports science. So my main job is in Tel Aviv, and I'll be driving in and out of there, where nowadays sometimes I'll be teaching some of the classes through Zoom. And if it's anything practical, then I'll be driving into Tel Aviv unless limitations come up, and then we roll with whatever the country decides it's okay at the moment to do.
I was working in nonprofits and like business development for nonprofits. Now post-COVID, step back to be a little bit more at home, take care of our daughter a little bit more. Hopefully when things return to some kind of normalcy, I'll be able to go back. I also did a master's degree here, so I did an MBA up at Haifa in English. So it's important to know, like, if you do want to continue, there are opportunities here as well.
Amazing. I'm just trying to mute people because I can hear. Can I just remind everybody to mute themselves? I can't see who's not muted because I'm on one screen here. Hold on a second. Give me one moment. Okay, everybody. Okay. So thank you so much. We're going to come back for questions. I wanted to invite Karen. Is Karen on the phone? Karen.
Sorry, yes, I'm here.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Is your husband
here?
So
he is, but he's on another screen because there was Corona at my daughter's school. So I ended up going into quarantine with her. So he's in quarantine from us who are in quarantine.
So where are you hiding? You in one room and he's in another?
I have the whole apartment, and he's quarantining in our room.
Hello there.
Oh, hi. Okay, is that the husband? Okay, hi.
I'm in Bidud from our family.
Oh my gosh.
Basically.
Okay, so we're going to go from back and forth. Okay, so tell us, Karen, and is it how do I pronounce your name? Jaron.
Jaron or Yaron?
Oh, Yaron. Okay, great. So tell us why you moved to the area. And also, can you tell us a little bit about the schools? Like, do you have children in school?
Yeah, definitely. Jaron, do you want to start?
I'll start off with the area. So first of all, we only made Aliyah about 1.5 years ago. And for me and for us, it was essential that we moved to an area which had a community. Coming from South Africa, where we're very community orientated, it's extremely important to be a part of something. And we did. We looked around at a few places, and because we were deciding as a whole family, i.e. Us and Karen's family, we all took a vote, and everybody was very, very happy with Kiryat Hasharon for all the reasons that Daron and Jeremy and was it Nadav and family mentioned, and we've been very, very happy in this area for all those numbers of reasons. But for us, like I said, very importantly, the community itself. And we found this little small special Anglo community, and we started our own little shul. And even throughout this Corona time, everybody's been looking after each other and chatting and events, whether it's Zoom, whether it's talk with the kids, davening. There's been loads of things, which is amazing. Everyone's there for each other, even during these crazy times. And that's what's so important about making Aliyah, knowing that you're not alone, that you always have friends and community there for you. And for me, that was a big part of it. Having said that, it's an Israeli area. The neighborhood is an Israeli neighborhood. There's a mix of French and Russian and Israeli and Anglos, and English speakers, but the majority is, if you walk around the streets, you hear Hebrew. And that was also important for us, that our kids grew up in an Israeli or a Hebrew-speaking environment, but they can also have the option of communicating or socializing with English speakers. And obviously in our house, we have a strict rule that they're only allowed to speak English, because we want to keep up the English, because they're getting Hebrew all day long in the ganim and the schools.
Great. And Yaron, what do you do?
So I'm a physiotherapist, and I had to do one exam to convert my exam to be able to practice in Israel. I work on it.
That exam was in Hebrew?
No. Any language you want it to be in, they can do it in. So I did it in English. It was very tough, but at least I could do it in English.
Amazing. Okay, Karen, over to you.
So just before we get on to the schools, just to touch on also the aspects of the community that Jaron spoke about. The really nice thing about this area is that the community doesn't only exist on Shabbos. Like, we have WhatsApp groups running, there's a ladies group, and when we arrive, we just ask tons of questions. You can ask anything, and there's always somebody there to help you. And there's also a chesed group, so if somebody has a baby, they organize meals. If somebody is moving in, they organize meals. And they just like worry about people. And that was also very important to us, coming to a community where you feel a part of it all the time. Yeah, and then about the schools, so we have 2 kids in the system. One is in grade 1, and the other one is she just finished like the year before grade R. So she's going into grade R next year, and our other daughter's going into grade 2. So the eldest one was actually in a private school in South Africa, and she was in a class of 8 kids. And we came to Israel, and she went into a class of 30 kids. She did grade R here. And coming from the private, I was a bit worried about what she was going to get when we came here. And it's just been amazing. They have learned so much. They've grown so much. Their confidence has just grown here. Even the teachers' comments on the way they came and the way they are now, they're completely different children. They can both speak Hebrew.
Amazing.
It's impressive how fluently they can speak. And they have friends. They doing well at school. They on par with their peers. The teachers have managed to bring them up to the right level. And as Jaron said, we don't speak Hebrew at all with them at home. And they up to scratch. They're not behind. Some of the teachers don't even believe that they came so recently.
I think kids are a lot more adaptable than adults. So
Is that
much easier.
yeah,
I've lived here for 18 years and I don't speak Hebrew either. That's
but I also see that like with kids, they immersed in Hebrew all day long, but their friends also don't mind correcting them. Like my one daughter had a play date and her friend corrected her Hebrew the whole time. So like she said something and she said, no, you don't say it like that. You say it like this. And she told her over and over till she got it right. So it's just been amazing for us. And the schools are really good. They've got an amazing education.
Amazing. I actually wanted to ask to come on the call. Is it Rachel or Rachel? I'm not sure how you pronounce, who has older children.
Yeah, it's Rachel.
Where are you?
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Can you see me? Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. I'm a little bit different than the people who have spoken until now. I'm a different age demographic, and my history is a little bit different. I moved to Israel when I was 13 years old. I grew up in Yerushalayim, and I married an Israeli and moved to Netanya. My kids I have one finishing grade school, finishing 6th grade now. I have one in college, and I have 2 in high school. One is finishing 12th grade and one is going into 11th grade. So it's a different demographic. And I'm like from, I would call, in today's terms, I would say the first wave. The first wave is the group of Anglos that were in this community before this new shul, this new English-speaking shul opened up, and all the young couples that have come in, Jeremy and Yaron and everyone who's spoken. So the shul that I go to is 50% English-speaking. We're about 80 families altogether, and about 50% are English speakers. And the kids grew up in a neighborhood that was, like it is today, predominantly Israeli. There were, 2 to 3 English speakers in each grade, maybe in some cases there were like 5 or 6. I can tell you that most of these kids are now marriageable age, and I'd say about 80 to 90% of them have married Israeli. That's the kind of community it was. That's the kind of community it is for the older kids. The older kids will become Israeli. There are not that many English speakers. They'll hopefully, if you encourage it, they'll go to the youth groups. There's both Bnei Akiva and there's Sofim for irreligious. And chances are that they'll become more Israeli than you would expect. So my kids are in we're a religious family. I have a daughter in the Ulpanit, which is a very good school. It's a large school. There are 4 classes per grade of around 30 kids in each class. It's a very good school. They offer a lot of different options as far as different classes they can take, because you have to choose a major in Israel in 10th grade. My son is finishing in the Bnei Akiva Yeshiva. We had an outstanding experience with him at the Bnei Akiva Yeshiva. And all of my kids went to the same school within the neighborhood. The name of the school is Moreshet. It's not the school that I think Karen was talking about because we didn't have COVID. I think that she's in a different school. But as she said, there are 3 religious schools here. They're all outstanding. And what I've heard from the irreligious families, and there are more schools there. There must be like 7 schools. Also, all the families are very happy with elementary schools, and their junior high schools in the neighborhood as well for irreligious, and I think everyone is happy with them as well.
And in terms of community, does everybody get on? It's like it seems like a great melting pot, and everybody seems very mutually respectful of everybody.
I think it depends on the people. I think it depends how much you want to integrate. If you want to integrate, there's very many options to integrate. And if you don't want to integrate, there are those options as well. Like, again, going back to my community, to my shul, of the 40 families, I would say about half have integrated really well, to the point where they will invite Israelis over for a meal, and Israelis will invite them over for a meal. And about another 20 who more keep to themselves, and it's fine. It's fine. We all get on. We do have community activities together, and everyone comes and everyone knows each other.
Do you work?
Yeah, I'm a private consultant to startups. I write business plans, financial forecasts, etc., to startup companies.
Amazing. And where are you from originally?
Okay, so I'm from America. I lived in America until before 9th grade, and came on Aliyah with my parents, who also live in the community.
Wow.
And my sister lives in the community as well. Came on Aliyah when I was 13, and been living here since 1986.
Wow.
In Netanya since 1994, before it was called Kiryat Hasharon, when it was only called Amalia.
Amazing. Can somebody tell us, it's open, I just wanted to wish Doron, who's I think the Nefesh B'Nefesh, he is the Nefesh B'Nefesh rep, he's not feeling well, but he is listening to the course. So Doron, refer Shlema, hope you feel better. And thank you for coming on. And I will give out, as I said, whoever wants to connect with anybody on the call and everybody's agreeable, I don't mind sharing numbers. So let me know if that's good for you guys as well. I wanted to talk about a little bit about the market in terms of, it's an amazing community, but now, are there places where people, is it affordable? Can you buy a house? Look, what does it cost to buy a house? What does it cost to rent? Some of you maybe who are renting and don't mind, maybe you can share that information with us. I've got Hillel on the phone as well. Hillel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Hi, sorry. Okay, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Hillel Davis.
Coming on.
Sure. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been living in Israel for about 8 years. Made Aliyah directly to Givat Shmuel, where I'm living until now. And since before getting married about almost 3 years ago, me and my, at the time, fiance, now my wife, we're both very community-oriented people. And so we're constantly talking about and taking proactive steps to find where our next community would be, whether it be somewhere that we build from scratch or, join that's being built or a place that's already existing. And ultimately, Doron talked about, his 3 pillars. So for us, the 3 pillars that essentially were most important for us were geographical location, not necessarily in this order, but geographical location, type of community, and price. In terms of location, obviously, my wife works entirely in English, and so most jobs that she's in high tech, most jobs that she's going to have for the foreseeable future, unless COVID continues for unfortunately longer, are going to be in Tel Aviv. So it's important for us to be close to Tel Aviv, not just by car, not just by train, but by both, to have strong public transportation, as well as being able to get there by car if needed. As my wife put it, if God forbid the Ganenet calls in the middle of the day and says we need to pick up our kid, she doesn't want to have to wait half an hour for an off-peak train to take her 45 minutes, then walk 15 minutes to get to the gun. She wants to be able to hop into a cab and be there in 20, 30 minutes. But also in the morning to be able to avoid traffic. So that was very important to us. In terms of community, we wanted a place where we would feel like there was a strong community, a sense of community, like everyone has spoken about so far, and not being just in an Anglo bubble, but rather having some degree of integration. And in terms of price, living, the closer you live to Tel Aviv, generally the more expensive it is. So we were realistic about that. We also wanted to be in a place that we didn't need to live in a mansion, but to be able to have our enough space to live comfortably without breaking the bank. And after looking into a number of communities, Kiryat Hasharon really ticked all of those boxes. I had initially heard of Kiryat Hasharon actually through work, through clients who had been asking me about it. And through research, I saw that it's an amazing community. And again, everything's relative when it comes to prices. But if you're comparing it to other places that are within, 45 minutes or so of Tel Aviv, of the Merkaz, Kiryat Hasharon is relatively affordable. Just to throw out some general prices there, for renting a 3-bedroom, let's say, which Israelis would call a 4-room, can be in the 4,500 shekel to just over 5,000 shekels. Just as a general rule, prices generally don't. There's usually a jump between being 5,100 shekel and much more, because you only start paying income tax if you're renting out an apartment once it goes over 5,100 shekel. So there's generally a cutoff there, and then a jump up to the next price bracket, which is a general rule, also helpful for negotiating. So that's for 3 bedrooms. For 4 bedrooms, like I said, it sort of jumps up to around 5,500 to about 6,000 shekels a month. If it's a duplex, then it's then it's more. If it's brand new, then it's going to be more. If it's a garden apartment, all those kinds of things will obviously increase the price. And obviously the converse, if it's a much older apartment, if it needs renovation, things like that, then it may be even less than that lower end of the bracket. It could be even less than, be closer to 5,000 shekel. Seen places like that as well. For purchasing, most apartments are either 4 or 5 bedrooms. And for purchasing, the 3 bedrooms are generally around 1.75 million shekel up to 1.85. More, again, you're gonna have places that are less expensive and places that are more expensive, but an average, normally sized, 110, 115 square meter apartment is going to be around that price.
That's
I would convert it to
approximately 1,000 square feet, just for those Americans that are.
About half, basically around $500,000 for a 3-bedroom apartment. $500,000 US, and there's a lot of different people here from different places. Otherwise, I would go through all the different currencies. And for a 4-bedroom, the prices jump up to anywhere from about 1.85 is probably the lowest end that you would find, 1.85 million shekel. Usually a little bit more than that. And again, if it's a standard apartment, then the higher end is going to be around 2.2, 2.3 million shekel. Those who have recently bought or renting can chime in if they're if I'm exaggerating the numbers, but that's what I've seen generally in the markets, as well as places I found for myself and for clients of mine.
And what about?
I will. Oh, sorry. Someone had asked in the chat. If their houses or apartments. Yeah. It's primarily in the part that's properly Kiryat Hasharon is primarily apartment buildings. It's not like skyscrapers. Most buildings are, no more than 10 to 12 stories. Many even shorter than that. Here and there in areas that are a little bit more to the east, further east of Kiryat Hasharon, an area called Hirschkovitz, and in other areas there are private houses as well. I think that the vast majority of people live in apartment buildings. Sorry, Kim, I cut you off.
No, it was actually to ask you about houses, because I was reading the questions as we were going along. So if anybody wants to be in touch with Hillel about options, I will connect you. So please just reach out to me on my email. My email is Kim, K-I-M, the letter L, Bash, B-A-S-H, @gmail.com, kimlbash@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook, Kim Bash, or Instagram as well. And my phone number I put here as well. I want to pass over to somebody who I partner with, who I have great respect, and I think is just the most amazing organization. We have Rafi. For those of you who have been on my previous calls, I always ask Rafi to come onto all our calls, because I think everybody needs to know about this amazing opportunity an organization that exists. And so I'd like to introduce Rafi from Olim Advisors, just to give a little intro about himself and his organization.
Thanks, Kim. I appreciate you inviting me here. Hi, everyone. So just briefly, I started the organization with my sister about 5 years ago. And the goal of it really was to help people make Aliyah. When you think about the process, it's very overwhelming. It's very time consuming, especially if you're doing it from afar. And so the first thing we did is we met with Nefesh B'Nefesh and we asked them if there's a need for this and if this is something that they do. And the answer was that there's absolutely a need for this, and it's not really something that Nefesh B'Nefesh focuses on. And so what we did is we put together a wide variety of services that help people from the early days of finding a community. So, for example, today I spoke to somebody who doesn't know where they.
Oh, what happened? Yeah.
Move to. They have some priorities, and so narrow down to communities. And then, of course, when it comes to school, as Kim was saying, and a lot of the people on this call were talking about, it's very important to find the right schools for kids. And so there's some obvious options, and then there's some other options that are not as obvious. And so we can really spend a lot of time finding schools, finding communities. And then the next step is for people who want to make a pilot trip. So we always recommend that if you can, come on a pilot trip so you can check out communities, check out different properties, and so on and so forth. And so we help people typically anywhere from 6 months to a year before they make Aliyah. And then once they get here, that's when you really roll up the sleeves and we work with our Olim. There are a number of things that you need to take care of, as you all know, who are living in Israel. So you need to go to the bank and open up a bank account, and you need to go to Misrad HaKlita, Misrad HaPnim, and there's just a number of things that you have to take care of, which can be overwhelming, can be confusing. And so we go with our clients to the bank, to Misrad HaKlita, to Misrad HaPnim. We help them set up utilities. And really the purpose of our services is to change the experience from this overwhelming, intimidating experience to a much more positive experience. I think one of the things that we share with Kim is that we really believe that Israel is a home, and we want to try and help as many people as possible get here. And so we do a lot of the practical things. We help people make a lot of those big decisions that they need to make, and put together a plan for them. And so our service typically starts 6 months to a year beforehand, and then continues 6 months to a year after they arrive here. And anything that comes up, if you want to know how to make a doctor's appointment, you want to know how to go to the supermarket and what you need to look at and everything, every little thing and big thing that comes up, we really become their go-to contacts. And really our goal is to make sure that they're happy, that the kids are happy, and that their klita here is as seamless as possible. And so from my point of view, it's just great to meet many of you, and I want to really encourage you to think through this process and to let you know that with some proper planning and with some help, it's something that everyone can accomplish, and it's something that I think you will feel is probably one of the best decisions you've made. So I'll put my contact information here as well. You can reach me directly or through Kim. And if you have any questions, just in general questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to get on a call with you, just answer your questions, try and give you some guidance, and really try and help you through this process.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Rafi. Rafi, can you just make sure that your details are put on the chat for everybody?
Absolutely, I'll do that right now.
Amazing. So Rafi's going to put it on there. Okay, I just want to also point out to people that even though I am a broker, this is not the hat that I'm wearing here. I'm happy to connect people, but I want this to be a safe place for people to ask questions and not to be solicited by any brokers. So Hillel does work in the business, but he is also going to be a resident of the community and is moving there. So it's very important that people feel safe to ask questions, and I will connect them to people that I have a relationship with already and that I've checked out, because there's a lot of brokers, a lot of agencies out there, and I want to make sure that you guys are taken care of if Kiryat Hasharon is an option for you. So what I want to do now is I want to open it up to questions. So please feel free just to unmute yourself and to address anybody that is from Kiryat Hasharon.
Could somebody clarify the difference between Amalia and Kiryat Hasharon? I understand Amalia is within Kiryat Hasharon. What is the difference, and how do you, is it,
sure.
How do you characterize it?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Amalia was the original neighborhood that was built here in the early 90s. The apartments there are much smaller and not as good quality and much older. It's bordering, it's completely bordering. And in fact, some of the newer buildings of Kiryat Hasharon are back to back with Amalia. After Amalia, on the northern side would be Mishkenot Zvulun, which is the religious community. And then a little bit farther to the west, but it's really all within a 10-minute walking distance, is the beginning of Kiryat Hasharon, which continues down southern-wise quite some time. To walk the length of the neighborhood, I would say would take about 30 minutes, and the width about 10 minutes. And when you walk from one side to the other, you do eventually hit Amalia. It's all more or less the same general area. It's a difference in prices, a difference in quality. There are actually quite a few private houses on the Amalia side, but again, they're very old. They're a bit small. Just to know that if you do decide to purchase a house there, it's going to be a fixer-upper. It's going to require some work. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, thank you.
Excuse my ignorance. I'm just trying to understand what, as far as Netanya and Kira Hasharon, like is it considered Netanya or it's not?
Yeah, it's considered Netanya. It has its own, municipal facilities as a community, but as a city, it's part of Netanya proper.
Also, I'm just going to point out, it's between the two industrial areas. So we have like access to everything we could possibly want. And within the community itself, there are 3 shopping centers, small ones, but you can pretty much live your life within the neighborhood without really going out of the neighborhood. Food-wise and, even health-wise, almost everything is within the neighborhood. And it really feels almost like a yeshuv, the neighborhood, but we're within a city, so we have everything that the city could possibly offer as well.
What Kupat Cholim do you have there?
Well,
all 4 of them, right?
Of course, yeah.
They're all right next to each other also.
And what about, I've got a question, what about local transportation within Kiryat Hasharon? Are there like buses that go, like how is it, can you walk from one side to the other? How do people get around? Does everybody have a car?
Not everyone has a car. I think most people do. There are buses that run going from, I would say, the center of town in Netanya proper, through the first industrial area and the neighborhood, and then moving on towards the second industrial area and down towards Poleg. But for the most part, things are close enough for most people to walk from one place to another.
How does Kiryat Hasharon compare to Ir Yamim and Ramat Poleg with regards to pricing? I know Ramat Poleg and Ir Yamim is more expensive, but with regards to demographics, religiously, and heterogeneity of the communities, how does it compare? In terms of religion, Dati Leumi, Chardal, secular, as well as in terms of Anglo composition.
I feel like I'm answering all the questions, so if someone else wants to, feel free. I think that Kiryat Hasharon has more religious families than the others, but I could be wrong. The other ones are more of a mix. Ir Yamim, I think, has a very strong French community as well. Kiryat Hasharon has as well. I think that most of the religious families today are gravitating towards Kiryat Hasharon, but Ir Yamim and Poleg have as well, and that's all I really can answer. Maybe someone else has more on that than I do.
Yeah, I can try to take a shot at that. There are predominantly 3 or 4 major Anglo centers in Netanya. Kiryat Hasharon is more characterized by the more younger, economically active families. The other 2 areas in Netanya is North Netanya, which is Nitsa, which is predominantly more type of a Rotary that's on the beachfront. And then a third area is Ir Yamim, which is a relatively probably about 10 years old. Lots of major incredible development happening over there. Amazing skyscrapers, and it's really iconic, amazing as well. And there's a really also a good mix down there in Iriamim from retirees. There are a couple younger Anglo families that are there. There's a nice Anglo shul there, a young Israel shul. And there's also 2 Anglo shuls in North Netanya. So those are the 3 primary Anglo nodes in Netanya. There is a 4th node in South Netanya. I think what's called Smack. But yes, I think what characterizes Kiryat Hasharon is it's primarily a more younger type of family with the school communities around town.
Thank you. What about Sephardi versus Ashkenazi kinds of shuls? The Anglo shuls, are they both, or the Nusach Ari, or?
I'll take that one. The younger shul will answer for themselves. Our shul has a mix, also of about, I'd say, 20 to 30% of Edot Mizrach, but the shul itself is Nusach Sfard, Ashkenaz Sfard. There are all kinds of shuls in the neighborhood, but the ones with English speakers are mainly Sfard, which is Ashkenaz. There is another minyan which is very interesting called Kiryat Yishai, which is Yachad Sheptei Yisrael, where the Nusach changes according to whoever goes up to daven. At Nusach Hari, there is one Chabad shul as well. Every Nusach is, you can literally find every Nusach. Netanya is a predominantly Edot Mizrach city, and you're going to find a lot of that.
And in terms of hashkafa, is there chardal or datilumi or charedi? I mean, I know that there's chiloni, and it seems like people are not strictly charedi, but it's hard to equate exactly to America. But people who don't have television sets, who don't really go to movies, but do have internet and do work and learn, don't just wear black and white.
There is a Garin Torani, and they have, there's a Barka'i type school, not within the community, and a Barka'i, separate, like a Talmud Torah Barka'i, and Talmud Torah for Barka'i girls school, also not within the community, but there are people from the community that send there. But predominantly, it would be more of a Bnei Akiva / Ariel community.
I think it's also important to add onto that is that once you're considering a city, and Netanya is a city, you've literally got every type of sector in the city, from the Hasidim in Sands to around the Canyon, which is gets quite Haredi. I think that's really the nature and the beauty of a city. There's a huge diversity of both. But what Rachel points out in the Kiryat Hasharon community is probably more Datilomi in Aisha, and it just so happens that the younger shul that we formed is actually a Nusach Ashkenaz shul, but we do have quite a few Sephardi and different types that come to the shul.
I have a question.
We also have people who are not just young people come to the shul.
I have a question. So when we're speaking about Anglos, I'm just curious, what percent is American, South African, British, even like French? What are we talking about when we say we're using the term Anglos a lot? Specifically in Kiryat Hasharon, not in Netanya as a whole, but specifically in Kiryat Hasharon, what type of Anglos are we talking about?
Anybody want to answer?
Sorry, what do you mean? What type of Anglos are there? You want to know, like, more or less how many Americans versus Australians?
Yeah, versus Australians. Like, where's everyone coming from, like, percentage-wise? Is it all like a chalet, like kind of like mixed together, or there's like a predominantly like from one place? Like, where's everyone coming from?
Look, the Anglos, I don't think they. Kind of think of them predominantly, maybe a lot of Americans, but there's also Australians, there's British, there's South Africans, there's quite a few South Africans. So, I don't know, Grace looks like she's ready to answer also.
In the older Anglo crowd, it's predominantly British, some American, some South African, a touch of Australian, but I think the challenge was a good description.
That's great. I see Rabbi Hirschkovitz is on the phone. Oh, came on. Hi.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
You want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. I'm Aaron Hirschkovitz. I'm the Rav of the community of Shevet Achim, the shul that was mentioned earlier. My wife and I, we both grew up in North America, in America, and she in Canada. And we met here after making Aliyah. We were the last 2 years in England, working for Bnei Akiva, and we didn't have any connection to Netanya before, and we decided to come here. We heard a lot about the community, in general, both the wider Kiryat Hasharon community overall, the English-speaking community, and also Shevet Achim. And it's been really nice. We've been here almost a year now. One of the things, in terms of the makeup of the community, one of the things that appealed to us very much before coming here, and we've really seen, is that there's really a wide variety of people, both in terms of religious backgrounds, in terms of where they were born, and different life experiences. Like I know, our 8-year-old, I really enjoy the fact that she's in a class with kids whose parents were born in Israel, France, England, Russia, Ethiopia, and Brazil. And that's just like one small class, and I think it's beautiful. Very excited about it.
Hi, I have a question. Somebody was asking, let me just read, is there any special needs opportunities for schooling?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for having this. You have answered so many of our questions. My name is Shira, and my husband and I are planning to move to Kiryat Hasharon this year. And it just depends on when we get our passports and jobs and things like that. We were wondering what the Ulpan situation is like. Can you get there by walking? Do you have to use public transportation? Is it within Kiryat Hasharon, and what levels are available?
Who wants to answer that one?
I can give it a shot, but I'm real old alma mater, so I did all kind of about 4 years ago. Are you there? Jaren's there.
Yeah, I was going to say based on Jaren's experience.
I did the Ulpan in Netanya. It's important to understand that Misrad Klita, the absorption center, offer the government, let's call it the government Ulpan, which they give you vouchers for, and you can do your 6 months of Ulpan, and that can be a course of every single day for like 5 hours. Now that's not something that I wanted to do, an Ulpan of every single day, 5 days a week. So I looked into other options, and I found a semi-private, semi-government Ulpan in the Netanya area. All the Ulpans that I found are in the Merkaz, are in the Netanya itself, but we don't have a car. I managed to get there by bus. A 20-minute, 15-minute bus ride gets you to the center of Netanya. It wasn't a big deal. I could even ride my bike there. It's as simple as that. I ended up doing an Ulpan, which was, like I said, semi-private, semi-government, i.e. what that means was it was through a private institution, but the government paid for it. So the way it worked specifically for my Ulpan was that the government paid me into my bank account, and then I would pay that money to the private ulpan, and then within that ulpan, I was in a class with 4, 5 people max, and we could choose our hours. So I chose to do twice a week, evening classes, so that I could start working and organizing my life at the same time. And they offer all different ranges of ulpan levels, except I found limited if you're on a much higher level. Like Karen, my wife, can speak Hebrew, and for her to find a much higher level was more challenging. They wanted to put her in the same level as me, which didn't make sense. But for the average beginners to, let's call it conversational Hebrew, they've got all the levels, and some of them do tests, and they're really good. I was very happy with my ulpan experience.
And just to add to what Jaron, sorry, Kim, and just to add to what
I want to know, do you guys speak Hebrew to the locals? Are you able to have a conversation, what I call it, in going to shops or ordering a restaurant? Do you tend to speak English or do you tend to speak Hebrew?
Once, and I'll answer that in a second, but just about the private ulpan that Jaron spoke about, you only get refunded if there is budget for it. And with the government being in the state that it is, nobody knows for sure how long that's going to continue. So unless you're willing to pay for the private ulpan, you would have to check out the situation at the time to see if it's worth it for you. And then to answer Kim's question, well, I didn't do ulpan because I actually lived in Israel for a few years as a child, so I can speak Hebrew. And so when I do go out, I do speak Hebrew.
That's amazing.
If I could just jump in, I think that, like, I came in and I tried ulpan, and I ended up leaving it a little bit early because it was a lot to memorize. Like, there's like 50 to 100 words a day when you do the 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And it's kind of like an overload because you don't yet speak enough to really be able to use it. I ended up taking a step back, doing a bunch on my own, and then coming back into a private ulpan. It takes work to learn the language, and you really do need to work at it, because as soon as somebody finds out that you speak English, then they speak to you in English. So like, I now, after being here for 8 years, I have friends that I speak to in Hebrew, but that's within the past year that I've made those friends in Hebrew. And before that, I really have to push the Hebrew. If it's at a restaurant or I'm ordering food and I speak in Hebrew, it's totally fine. But if I want to like really make a connection with other moms and have it only be in Hebrew, then that's only been quite recent that I felt comfortable enough to really speak so freely to have complicated like expression of my thoughts and feelings. It's work, so you kind of have to leave your you just have to make mistakes and be okay with the fact that you're going to make mistakes left and right, and they're going to be hilarious, and just like go with it in order to continue and advance.
I have a question for Mr. Kalmo about the difficulty for his wife to find some ulpan which is more advanced. So it seems like the ulpans are geared towards people who are beginners. So I started learning more Hebrew here. I also have somewhat of a Hebrew background. I lived in Israel for a little bit, and I also studied in schools, but my Hebrew is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm thinking, based on what Mr. Kalmo is saying, that maybe it's not so easy to find an ulpan like that. Maybe we should try our hardest to become very proficient as soon as possible and just get teachers, because it seems like the ulpans are geared towards beginners. Can someone sort of clarify, are there different levels of ulpan, or maybe just Netanya for beginners?
No, it's levels everywhere. There's all different levels. Every ulpan I've ever been into, you come in there and they basically test you and see where your level is. But,
you know what I mean?
am I correct?
What is gone there? What's a D-Rod gone?
Yeah,
it could
exactly.
be like Shimshon with that bike, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, or like the
or it
gone
could
like
be like
your backyard. And
or the Katz's backyard.
Yeah, like.
I don't know what that was about. Okay.
No, I was just responding to what Kalmo was saying. He was saying he didn't know Hebrew, so he found a place and he found a semi-private, and they picked out the hours and he worked. It was great. But his wife is much better Hebrew, it was harder for her to find something. So maybe Mr. Kalmo can clarify why it was harder for his wife. Is it because she was looking for semi-private to work and learn Hebrew, so it's much more restrictive? Or is it because what Kim's saying, what other people seem to be saying, is they test you and you can find a place at your level. So I'm just a little bit concerned about that. I was wondering, maybe you could clarify, why was it hard? Is it just because he was advanced, or?
To answer your question, sorry, Kay. I came with a basic Hebrew, i.e. I could read, write, and I'd learned Hebrew all through school. So I had basic foundation of Hebrew. I just needed conversational Hebrew. I started at around what they call Kita or class Gimel, going into Dalet. So it wasn't a very basic. It was, I would call it quite moderate, but I wanted to improve my conversational Hebrew. For Karen, she knew how to speak. She just wanted to improve on a lot of her vocabulary, because she was limited with certain types of vocabulary. And so she was on a much higher level. If I was on number three, she was close to number 5 or 6.
Do you know what they wanted?
If I can just give my 2 cents on the Netanya Ulpan, the Netanya Ulpan, which Jay refers to, which is run through directly through the Misrada Kita. They go from Kita Aleph to Kita Gimel. I did the Kita Gimel, which was a little bit on the basic side. I would have preferred to have gone to a Kita Dalet, which I think would have been more appropriate, not because my Hebrew is that good, but I just think it was a relatively low level. The problem is that it's a Kita Dalet, specifically a Kita Dalet, is not offered in Netanya. We would have had to go to Renana. So if you're between a Kita Aleph, which is like really the starting off point, to Kita Gimel, which is starting at basic conversational Hebrew, the Netanya Ulpan on Rav Cook Street is excellent, and it's very, very well run. If you need something that's a little bit more advanced on the Kita Dalet, you have to look out of city.
Great. Also, I want to just say to people that I'm telling everybody, because I'm on Aliyah calls 9 o'clock in the evening until 2-3 every night. I've got people reaching out for me from all over the world, all very much interested in how to make Aliyah and how to find, as I say, a house is 4 walls, but a community is your home. So it's not about finding the best real estate opportunities. It's really about finding the right place where your family is going to fit in. So what I want to do is I'm going to probably have to end the call very, very soon. So we're going to take a few last minute questions. But one of the things I'm telling people is that you need to start doing online Hebrew. Any kind of online programs, getting your kids to watch YouTube, whatever it may be with Hebrew. There's amazing also opportunities. I can set people up with one-on-one Hebrew teachers in Israel, if that works for you. But I think the more you come prepared, the less, to make it as easy integration as possible. That's my advice to you. Unfortunately, it was a mistake that I made 18 years ago. I was very lazy because I live in the old city. It's mostly Anglo. I work with Anglos. I did all pan, but I was pregnant at the time and spent most of the time throwing up in the bathroom. So I never went back. So I think it was a very, very big mistake. And I really, really want to encourage everybody to embrace the language. You're coming to Israel, okay? You need to learn the language. And the other thing is that a lot of people are asking me about, like, now what to do. There's so much waiting time now. The Jewish agency is trying to process the applications as quickly as possible. Nefesh B'Nefesh as well. Everybody's on overload right now. So things I'm telling people practically, if you're serious about Aliyah, start decluttering your house and get rid of things, selling things. Whatever you need to do to make the process as easy as possible. There are so many WhatsApp chats about tips of making Aliyah. You've got the phenomenal organization, which I really strongly recommend you reach out to Rafi at Olim Advisors. I wish they'd been around when I came here, because I spent many times crying in these places. I had no idea what I was doing. I had nobody to help me. So reach out to people who can help you. Also, in terms of job opportunities, it's all about networking, okay? Get your resumes out to people. Start asking everybody. Send me your resume. I don't know if I can help, but if I can, I will. You've got to be, sometimes you have to recreate yourself, reinvent yourself. So just, if you want it to happen, it will happen. Israel is it's an amazing country with amazing opportunities. There's all these different startup organizations. Last week, I put up on my feed, I said, like, who's got jobs available? And within 5 minutes, there were all these jobs available, and they all required English. There was no Hebrew, interestingly enough. So reach out to people. And anybody else who wants to say anything? We're going to end off.
We're just looking to hire 2 people right now also. So if you're looking to work in tech, also let me know.
In tech. Okay, Hillel's your tech guy. Okay, besides properties, also your tech guy. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Next week, we're going to cover Renana, as I said to you. And I probably will do other communities within Netanya because it is a very popular spot because of its easy accessibility to Tel Aviv. And other job opportunities being on the train line. So again, if you want any meets and please PM me.
Like once
Is there any questions? There's a lot of echoing in the background. And I just want to say thank you so much to everybody from Kiryat Hasharon. I haven't had the opportunity to come up, but it sounds like the most amazing community. And I thank you everybody for your time. And again, please reach out to me, kimlbash@gmail.com, or on Facebook, Kim Bash. And my number, it's on the chat if anybody wants to have a look up at it. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And if you want a one-on-one, please be in touch with me privately. Any last minute questions?
Thank you very much.
Shavua Tov. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so
everyone.
much. Hello, thank you very much, Karen. Thank you. Yaron, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rafi, thank you. Great. And if anybody wants a recording, I'll try not mess up this time and download it correctly. Take care.
Bye, you too.